The calm before the fury. Every dojo has its rhythm, its own sense of order, a place where belt color defines respect, where the loudest voice usually carries the most weight, and where tradition reigns over truth. But on one hot Georgia afternoon, something entered the dojo that would rewrite everything. Two boys, twins, black, silent, no grand entrance, no fiery confidence, just the kind of stillness that unsettles even the boldest fighter. They came wearing white belts and no expression, just steady eyes and bare feet. They didn't ask to be seen, but they would be remembered. This is not just a story about two new students. This is about what happens when quiet becomes a weapon. And silence walks into the room already trained for war, and by the end, the same mat where pride once danced would kneel to something older, something deadlier. Silent arrival of the mysterious black twins at a local dojo. The heat of a Georgia summer clung to the windows of the strip. Mall dojo like sweat on skin. Inside, the air was thick with the sound of shouted kiais, thudding feet, and the sharp slaps of hand on mat. This was no place for softness. Only grit, skill, and swagger ruled here. Then the front door opened. Two boys stepped inside, identical, tall for 10, barefoot, wearing plain clothes with duffel bags slung over their shoulders and stillness in their eyes. No parent followed, no fanfare, just silence. Their skin was dark as molasses, their hair buzz cut, their posture straight like soldiers. They spoke no words to the receptionist. They didn't fidget or smile. They simply stood, watching. Coach Malik, the head instructor, caught sight of them and frowned with curiosity. "You boys here for trial class?" They nodded once, simultaneously. It wasn't the nod that unsettled Malik. It was the precision of it, like they'd practiced that response 1,000 times. Unusual calmness and discipline observed in the twins as the class began. Most new kids jittered with nerves, fumbling bows, eyes darting nervously to see who might be sizing them up. But not these two. Troy and Tyrese stood at the edge of the mat like they were born on it. When the class bowed in, they followed perfectly, without needing to be shown. They didn't look left or right, didn't giggle or whisper. Their focus was unnerving. Coach Malik called for basic warm-ups. Everyone hustled to line up. The twins were last to move, but somehow ended up perfectly aligned with the front row. Not an inch off, the older students whispered, creepy, they robots, who don't blink during war, mups. Every movement from the twins was clean, crisp, and without hesitation. They didn't show off. They didn't need to. Their stillness screamed louder than any scream. Their quiet discipline sliced through the room like a blade. Coach Malik watched from the corner of his eye and muttered to himself, either these boys are hiding something, or they've already been trained. Tension from senior black belt students toward the newcomers. The dojo had its own pecking order, an invisible system built on belt color, power, and attitude. At the top were Andre, Shy, and Darnell, 3 black belts with loud mouths, fast fists, and followers. They ruled the mats like teen titans, soaking in attention like it was air. So when the silent twins arrived and didn't flinch under their stares, tension crackled. Andre watched them during drills with narrowed eyes, white belts acting like they've been here before. He whispered to Shy, who smirked. Darnell leaned against the wall and muttered, "They think they better than us." It wasn't that the twins did anything wrong. It was the fact they didn't do what everyone else did. No flinching, no idolizing, no fear to the senior boys. That calm looked like arrogance, and in their world, arrogance had to be corrected with humiliation. They just didn't know. They were picking a fight with wolves dressed as sheep. Twins easily outclassed beginner sparring partners. Sparring rounds began. Coach Malik paired the twins with other beginners, kids who were still figuring out how to balance their stances and throw basic punches. Everyone expected Troy and Tyrese to stumble, fumble, and flinch. Instead, the room froze. In the first round, Tyrese sidestepped a wild punch and tapped his opponent's chest with a gentle but surgical palm strike, controlled but firm. The other kid stumbled back, shocked. Second round, Troy blocked a kick without looking, circled behind his partner, and tapped him out with a rear chokes. Smooth and fast, no wasted movement, no aggression. Just precision. Coach Malik blinked. Beginner's luck. He muttered under his breath. The students stopped giggling. Whispers began. "Yo, did you see that?" they moving like they already black belts. Andre folded his arms in the back. Shy clenched his jaw. These kids weren't flukes. They were problems, and suddenly this wasn't about karate anymore. It was about pride, and the storm was quietly brewing. Andre and his friends challenged the twins after class. The end-of-class bell echoed through the dojo, but the real tension hadn't even begun. As the other students grabbed their shoes and towels, Andre sauntered over, flanked by Shy and Darnell. The twins were seated silently near the back, lacing their gym bags with the same focus they'd had during training. "Hey, quiet boys," Andre called out, loud enough for others to hear. "You two think you slick." Troy didn't respond. Terry stood calmly. Andre stepped closer. "You disrespected this mat with your fake beginner moves. That ain't how things work here." Darnell chuckled. "Yeah, you need a welcome match." Coach Malik had already stepped into the office. No instructors, just eyes. Students slowly forming a circle, sensing something was about to go down. Andre cracked his knuckles. "After class, no rules. Let's see if you're really as calm when fists fly." Tyrese gave a slow blink. Troy stood beside him, wordless. Challenge accepted, and the storm finally touched ground. Twins display lethal, unorthodox combat skills. Andre struck first, fast and confident, throwing a spinning back kick that had stunned many before. But this time it landed on empty air. Troy wasn't there anymore. Like smoke, he slipped to the side and delivered a leg sweep so clean that Andre's body lost contact with the ground in one blink, and slammed into the mat with a muffled grunt. Before anyone could react, Shy lunged at Tyrese, fists blazing, but Tyrese didn't retreat. He stepped into the chaos. A sharp elbow to the ribs, a twist of the wrist, and Shy crumpled, breath stolen from his lungs. Darnell hesitated, but pride pushed him forward. He launched a flurry of punches at Troy. Troy didn't block with his arms. He moved through them, ducking low and rising like a wave, landing a palm strike under Darnell's chin. Not enough to break, just enough to warn. The room went silent, no shouting, no bragging, just two still boys surrounded by three groaning ones. It wasn't flashy, it was clinical and terrifyingly calm. Students and coach shocked by twins' precision and power. The dojo air turned cold. Not from the temperature, but from what everyone had just witnessed. Andre lay dazed, blinking up at the ceiling. Shy coughed on his knees, clutching his side. Darnell hadn't even gotten up yet. The circle of students, once noisy and eager, stood frozen, eyes wide, mouths shut. Not even the class clown dared to whisper. Coach Malik stepped out of his office, confusion on his face, until he saw the scene. His star black belts were on the floor, and two white-belted twins stood in the center, calm, hands behind their backs, like it was a drill. "What happened here?" he asked quietly. No one answered. He turned to the twins. "You boys okay?" Troy nodded. Tyrese simply said, "They started it." Coach looked into their eyes. No fear, no anger, just cold, balanced focus, like warriors trained not to fight for sport, but for survival. And suddenly Coach Malik understood. These boys didn't come to learn karate. They brought something far older with them. Twins revealed their training came from their grandfather after the chaos. Coach Malik sat the twins down in his office, concern carved into his features. "You boys need to explain something to me. That wasn't beginner's skill." Tyrese looked to Troy, who gave the slightest nod. "He trained us." Tyrese said softly, "Who did?" "Our grandfather, every morning, every night, since we were little." Malik raised an eyebrow. "What kind of training?" "Not like here," Troy answered, his voice barely above a whisper. "He called it war discipline." Tyrese added, "He said rules don't exist when you're trying to survive. He taught us to end it fast. No noise, no waste." Coach Malik leaned back, stunned. These weren't street kids. They weren't aggressive, but what they'd been taught wasn't sport. It was survival, precision, efficiency. He exhaled. "Well, you boys definitely don't need beginner classes." The twins looked at him, unreadable. "We don't want belts," a Troy said. "We just don't want to forget what he gave us." Dojo's hierarchy shattered and replaced by respect for the twins. The next class was different. The usual swagger in the room, the loud war-ups, the side smirks from black belts, the whispered jokes, was gone. In its place, silence. Troy and Tyrese entered as they always did, barefoot, quiet, eyes forward, but this time the room shifted around them. Students made space on the mat. Even Andre, bruised but back, offered a respectful nod before turning away. No one laughed, no one mocked. The dojo's unwritten rules, those built on belt color and ego, had been rewritten in one silent storm, and the new kings didn't raise their voices or puff their chests. They bowed. They drilled, they moved with grace, and everyone followed. Coach Malik didn't promote them. He didn't need to. The respect they now held was heavier than any belt. In a world of showy strikes and noisy dominance, two silent boys reminded everyone, power doesn't always yell. Sometimes it just stands still. The twins' silent dominance redefined strength in the dojo weeks past. The dojo's heartbeat had changed. The seniors trained harder, the juniors listened more, not because someone told them to, but because something had shifted. The energy, the standard, the mirror they all now measured themselves against wore no black belts. It wore silence. Troy and Tyrese became a symbol of restraint, of deadly grace, of purpose. They never boasted, never repeated the showdown. They simply showed up, executed drills with ghost-like precision, and disappeared. Coach Malik often found himself watching them instead of leading. What he saw was more than talent. It was legacy. One afternoon, after class, Malik approached them. "You two ever think of teaching one day?" Troy looked at his brother. Tyrese smiled faintly. "We're not here to teach," he said. "We're here to remember." And in that moment, the dojo wasn't just a school anymore. It was a sanctuary guarded by two shadows, carrying the spirit of a warrior long gone, yet living through every quiet breath they took, where it all loops back to the beginning. And so the dojo returned to its rhythm, but not its old one. It pulsed now with something deeper, respect forged through humility, fear, and revelation. The hierarchy had crumbled, the loud had gone quiet, the proud had learned to listen, but the twins, they never changed. Still barefoot, still calm, still watching, they never demanded belts, never sought titles, because their strength wasn't about climbing ranks. It was about honoring the man who forged them in fire and silence. A man who never raised his voice, but taught them how to move like shadows and strike like thunder. And as they walked through the doors each day, quiet, composed, the dojo finally understood what it had failed to see at the start. These weren't two ordinary boys starting their journey. They were returning to a battlefield with lessons already written in blood, bone, and memory.